What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined by my much richer now co-host, Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, you making any money off those Super Bowl prop bets? You get the Demi Lovato under?
I didn't do any of the props. I always wanted to do the props. Bet that Gatorade color.
Yep.
Bet the coin toss. You know, lots of very healthy things to bet on. Absolutely. Shout out to Chiefs Kingdom. Excellent game.
Yeah, and we're gonna be talking about the halftime performance at the Super Bowl in a second. But before we jump too far into it, no matter how you're listening to this podcast, you should go to our YouTube page and subscribe, which is youtube.com/nostalgiapod. You should go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod and follow the podcast in any format that you like best. And also follow us on Twitter at nostalgiapod. And if you would be so kind, a rating and review on iTunes, 5 stars only, is much appreciated.
Only 5.
Dave, last night we had Jennifer Lopez, an Oscar snub, and we will be talking Oscars later. And Shakira,
Yes.
who has neglected to pay her taxes to the tune of like 12.2 million euro or something like that. So both snubs in different ways. Performing on the stage last night, and I was sweating at the end of that performance. They really brought the energy. They brought some other things to the table. How are you feeling about the Super Bowl halftime show?
I thought it was a good one. You know, lots of the dancing and the choreography that they both brought to the table was definitely strong, entertaining, obviously for a variety of reasons. Also I think important because I think neither one's like an amazing top tier vocalist. You know, they don't have Demi Lovato's pipes, for example, but they're both the whole package because in terms of entertainment. So I thought it was really well done show. I was kind of surprised that Shakira just kind of had her own mini opening set in the beginning. That's pretty uncommon the way it's gone. I mean, I can't remember the last time the lead act on the halftime show didn't start it off. You know, that was an interesting change. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty cool. I've only watched it one time live, but I'd like to see it again just because it was. I mean, they're always medleys, but this was like hardcore medley. They ran through songs. I kind of would have liked to hear Let's Get Loud and Hips Don't Lie just a little bit longer personally, but they just kind of kept ripping through to the next moment. But it was really good.
Did you catch the political statements that were made, like with the kids sitting in the cages and like the Puerto Rican flag and things like that?
Obviously, the Puerto Rican flag's hard to miss. I think I missed the cages, to be honest. When was that?
Yeah, so there was one point where they had
on stage at various points.
Yeah, they had one kid that was singing for a little while. I don't remember which song it was, but then they kind of panned over the crowd or over the performers on the stage, and it was dark, and they had light up cages around them. It was I didn't catch it in real time. I thought it was just oh, that's an interesting thing, but then I saw people posting about it, and I was like,
right,
okay. I wasn't really watching with the political mindedness at the forefront of my radar, so to speak. Just kind of was looking for the entertainment value. But as you know, everything is political today, Dave. So Jennifer Lopez and Shakira did not shy away from making a statement. So shouts to them and standing up for their political beliefs. You know, we talked about the Super Bowl halftime. Some good, some bad since we started the podcast. Justin
Maroon
Timberlake.
5, bad.
Yeah, Maroon 5, not great. Would this one fall into your top 5 of all time?
I mean, heavy recency bias, right? I think the problem with doing a Super Bowl ranking is I didn't see all of them. You know,
you can watch most of them now.
Yeah, you can. Also, I feel like a lot of them, the broadcast was just a lot different. It was not as strong a viewing experience. You know, the whether it's big pyrotechnic stuff or just the way the camera moves. Some age better than others. You know.
Yeah.
I think of was it 1993 Michael Jackson? That looks like a 1993 broadcast.
Yeah.
I mean, MJ still brings it, of course. That was, him damn near at his peak, but I feel like some have kind of fallen by the wayside. But the production values are just so strong now that I feel like I do kind of have a recency bias overall.
Well, and I think the recency bias makes sense because, pretty much until 2001, after that Michael Jackson performance, the rap was the Super Bowl halftime show kind of sucked to play. No one wanted to do it. And then they let MTV take it over because it had kind of fallen to the point where like no one really wanted to do it because of the restrictions the NFL was putting on the performance. Right. And then you had, Aerosmith, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Nelly, Mary J. Blige, just like a orgasm of every single
bag.
Like artist that they could possibly think of to put on the stage. Ending in a pretty iconic Walk This Way dance moment with all those stars, which is kind of fun to think about. I think this would make my top 5 though, because I'm trying to think like the ones that really stand out. I mean, there's the meaningful ones, there's the really good performances, but I think for just like the energy this brought, the uniqueness of it, it being basically 2 female performers, where usually there's a male performer involved, except for Beyonce when her and Destiny's Child obviously burned it down, and also bringing a Latin flair to it, really making it feel like this was a Miami halftime show, and I appreciated that. It really felt like a place, so definitely would make my top 5. Do any other Super Bowl halftime shows really stand out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone goes to the Prince one as the best one from 2007. It's kind of funny because the Prince one is in the middle of the post Timberlake, Janet Jackson snafu, which then led to the halftime show being very old and different for about 10 years, right? What was it? Paul McCartney, Stones, Springsteen, The Who, Pete Townsend. 2010, he was old by then. That was rough.
That was tough.
But like the Prince one stuck in the middle, right in the middle of that in 2007, and like I'll be honest, like it's not like my favorite of them all. I feel like people kind of have this like warm memory of it because like it rains and Prince is no longer with us, and it's like also not like the flashiest or showiest. Just like Prince is just like a boss, and that's what he brings to that. And he was I think he was like what, like 40, 49 or something when he did it, so he wasn't even that old.
Yeah.
So I mean, is that your favorite one? Like I feel like that's kind of like the default these days.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely my favorite one, not only for everything you talked about. They had a really cool stage design for that, especially when Purple Rain plays at the end and it's raining and it shows his like huge silhouette on this like big backdrop that's like flapping in the wind. It just is like unbelievable. And he also didn't just stick to Prince songs. He starts off with We Will Rock You and then does a huge guitar riff, goes into Let's Go Crazy. He brings in Proud Mary at one point, does All Along the Watchtower. It's just like it's everything you want in a Prince performance. He just is like shredding the guitar, being this charismatic, enigmatic person that only Prince was, which is why I think it's my favorite. It also is just kind of like, you don't have the flashiness of like the dancing and the choreography, but I think that's actually almost what makes it stand out to me, is it's so singular in terms of no other Super Bowl halftime show that I think is good. It's like that.
Sure.
U2 also comes to mind for me as a top one. Those two,
when was that?
That was 2002. So that was 4 months after 9/11. And it was the Patriots versus Rams Super Bowl. So that's obviously a close one for me. But honestly, if you go back and watch it, I still get goosebumps when they play Where the Streets Have No Name, with all the names of the people who died in 9/11 kind of rolling behind them. And just like, it was just such a moment, and it's one of those things that like really felt like it made the halftime Super Bowl important for a little while, which I don't always think of it as important. Usually kind of just comes and goes and I forget who performs, but I'll never forget that one. So that one's probably my number 2. What's your favorite one though? Because it doesn't sound like it's Prince.
No, it's not Prince. My favorite one's Lady Gaga from 2017. I just watched the whole thing again within the past week, and I think that one's like totally flawless. Like she just does like 6 or 7 bangers. She's dancing. She changes the costume. Like it's kind of like the whole package. It flies in the beginning, and like it's the choreography that's like the avant-garde shit you expect from a Gaga. But she's also like such like a boss performer that like and like her voice is so strong that really just comes across. Like I feel like that one really rocks still.
I think my only critique of that one is I feel like there's a part where she sings like A Million Reasons or something
Yep,
like that, and that
is
kind of
correct.
like brings me down a bit.
Yeah.
And she also
But
has
then
that
she does
weird
Bad
exit,
Romance after that, which brings everybody back.
right? Which is just like you're like, okay, I'm gonna lull you to sleep and then like shock you back to life.
Right.
And she has, if I remember, she has like a really weird exit where it's almost like she like jumps
Yeah.
off the camera or something.
She
like
drops
I don't
the
know.
mic and then she's like, Super Bowl 50 or whatever it was, peace or something. She just flies in the, yeah, it's hilarious.
So bizarre, but totally gaga. So yeah, that's a good one. Not in my top 5, but definitely would be up there.
Yeah.
What else is up there for you?
I mean, you mentioned it, but the first Beyonce one,
Yeah.
Beyonce headline, where she brings out Kelly and Michelle for Destiny's Child. Destiny's Child does Say My Name and Single Ladies.
Yeah,
that one's incredible.
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of similar to Gaga, similar to J.Lo and Shakira. The combination of great songs with amazing choreography and background dancing and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And it's funny, like the Coldplay one, quote unquote the Coldplay one, but really when Beyonce and Bruno Mars both come back for the second time, that's definitely Bruno's better Super Bowl because he had headlined before, and then Beyonce does Formation out on the field at that one.
Yep.
And you just forget that Coldplay was the headliner.
Yeah,
because Bruno and Beyonce were so good. I think it really elevates that one overall.
Yeah, that one has I think a good case to be in a top 5, especially because they use the whole field. If I remember, like Coldplay's in the middle, and then Bruno comes from one side, and then Beyonce from the other side with like a whole marching band behind her. It's just
because it's like in the daytime, right?
Yeah, it was like it was West Coast, so it was like 6 p.m. there, something like that. So it's still light out. It's like I don't know, very very cool. Definitely a cool one. Yeah, I mentioned the Aerosmith one. I think that one's up there just because it's so like it just is so ridiculous to me that they had all those people on stage all just killing it. Like when I watched that, I think the other day, I still was like in shock that it was like Nelly was just up there with like NSYNC and Britney Spears, and then you have Aerosmith and Steven Tyler just looking gangly and weird, but also just killing it. It's just it's a fun one. But yeah, the halftime show, it's nice. It's nice when it feels like people talk about it and appreciate it. When it kind of just comes and goes, I always feel a bit bummed.
Yeah. I felt that way about Maroon 5 for sure, and also Timberlake, who which is just kind of a missed moment because Timberlake really is a song and dance man to his core, yet it was just kind of an inert performance from him 2 years ago, which is weird because he does have enough hits to sustain that. You know, that was a little strange.
Yeah, they kind of missed their moment with him. I feel like if they had gotten him to do it right after the 2020 experience came out, would have been a much different and probably a better show. But
also, shout out Katy Perry, 2015, coming out on the Lion. Again, when you're that strong a vocalist and you have a meme like Left Shark, pretty memorable.
I'm always gonna wonder if Left Shark was intentional or not. Like, it just feels too perfect and that it wasn't intentional. That it must have been intentional.
Do you have like a golden goose for who the Grammys should get next? Because there's a few like obvious big names that have never done it, but like Beyonce's never going to go back. Bruno's done. Like we've already done a few big people at this time, and I'm not sure who like a throwback like J.Lo and Shakira. Like I don't know. Like what are you gonna do, Gwen Stefani? Like I don't know if like the relevance for someone who's a little older is there right now. Do you have anyone?
I mean, I think someone like Taylor Swift could be a good headliner and bring in some like country stars with her. You know, maybe someone like Miley potentially. You know, if they do like a mishmash. I feel like Miley, because she has such a strong, like backing of so many legendary people. She could probably get some good ones. I don't really know though. I haven't thought much. I think the Foo Fighters would always be able to put on a good show. Pearl Jam, I think, is in that sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean they haven't done a rock band that wasn't supplemented in a while, right? And even Coldplay, not the most unique of rock bands, let's put it that way. As far as the big ones go, they're certainly not the Foo Fighters. And the Chili Peppers already got used for Bruno's first time.
Do we know where the next Super Bowl is? I'm not even sure.
We definitely do. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I think for me, it's Rihanna.
Ooh,
if Rihanna would ever do it, that would be pretty wild.
Yeah, I just wonder, because I was thinking like Jay-Z, I feel like would be a
Yeah,
perfect person,
politically,
but
they're
there's
not going
no
to do it.
way, right? Super Bowl, what is this? Next year is in Tampa. So some good Tampa artists. Why don't we get some of those up and coming Florida trap rappers to do this? What do
Miami,
you
close
think?
enough.
Yeah,
Get
nah,
Denzel Curry,
yeah. Oh, there you go.
Lil Pump, Smoke
Perform
Perp.
Zoo back to front. Um, well, why don't we wrap the Super Bowl talk there?
Yeah, good
But,
job, team.
but we'll stay on music and let's talk Kesha.
Yeah, not exactly a caliber of Super Bowl yet, or ever probably, but certainly a notable artist, I'd say.
Well, it's interesting. Her career trajectory as of like 2012, people might have thought, 10, 15 years, maybe she'll have that catalog. Then everything happens with Dr. Luke. Her
Yeah,
career's derailed. And until she comes back with Rainbow in 2017,
yeah,
you're really like, is Kesha just going to be an artist who's never really able to make a comeback from this? Experience this horrible, traumatic relationship in her life, kind of held hostage in terms of her music. And I felt like Rainbow in 2017, which we reviewed, and you can check out that review, was a pretty solid comeback.
yeah,
It seemed like a more mature Kesha.
definitely.
She wasn't brushing her teeth with a bottle of Jack anymore. She was really reflecting on her life, and seems
Yeah.
like she was channeling some of her roots. So it was exciting to hear her moving in that direction. And then High Road comes out, and man, I don't know if she wants to keep moving in that direction anymore. She might want to go back to the old Kesha. It's like that. Lord forgive me, I'm about to go back to the old me meme. What do you think?
Yeah. After hearing "Praying" on Rainbow, very acclaimed, powerful song, she'd performed it a few times. Um, a message song that's probably the most poignant of all the comment on the Dr. Luke situation. It's pretty subtle in the album. To come back and have this fourth record, which also is still on Dr. Luke's label. She's not out of that situation still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that sleaze is back a little bit from Animal and Warrior, those first two albums, and I think she kind of like gets in on like, yeah, like I'm doing what I want. I don't have to. I don't have to conform to anything. I can just be me, and if I want to let loose, I can let loose. I thought it was kind of refreshing to hear her. Like, I think I was on like My Own Dance, just kind of be like, yeah, like this is me. I'm not doing this because Dr. Luke is making me do this anymore, but I still like doing this, so here I am. That was kind of cool. It's kind of a way to like process her, like moving on, moving past that stuff, and if she doesn't always want to be as deep or lyrical, I guess she doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought it was an interesting album to listen to because it really, like, the way they put the songs and the tracks together, it almost kind of felt like the first half to two-thirds was very much like her trying to find her footing with diverging her old sound with the artist that she is now, and like be more mature, obviously 8 years older than when Warrior came out at this point. But I didn't feel like a lot of those songs landed that well. There were a couple. I thought High Road was pretty good. I liked Potato Song, even though I thought it was just like a ridiculous name and just song in general. But then like the last half, pretty much from like BFF through Summer, the closing track, it sounded more like what we heard on Rainbow, and
Right.
it felt almost like it was a metaphor for her career, going from like this, poppy, carefree, like nothingness of pop songs to these more deep, meaningful tracks. So I was having a hard time kind of making sense of it in my brain, but I do feel like it's good for her to be trying to find maybe more of a mainstream sound to get back into the poppiness. Because unless she's making a song like "Praying," I don't think her songwriting is really strong enough to be
No.
carrying her into the top of the charts.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing too. It's with this album, yeah, it's definitely like up and down in the sense that it's devolving and evolving back into, like you said, the two phases of her career. And like from an album perspective, yeah, that's messy. Like it's kind of aimless, right? But for me, I think just kind of like the meta angle of it all, I like that it she's not throwing away, I think, her early success with this, which is I found refreshing. But yeah, I mean, like I find my favorite song is Honey, where like it kind of has like this spoken word delivery about like girl, the sloppy seconds, right, and shit. And then there's also like this be aggressive, be like just cheerleading chant throughout that changes the lyrics and stuff. And I was like, all right, this is pretty fun. And then like you mentioned High Road, that was co-written by Nate Ruess of Fun fame, R.I.P. to Fun. He's kind of all over this. And then she worked with this guy named Vrabel.
Yeah, Vrabel.
He co-wrote basically everything. So yeah, I think you're right. Like thematically, message wise, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. But I think like we kind of get like the old, like good old Kesha and also good rainbow Kesha. Even if it doesn't mesh well, it's kind of cool to see that she can still bring it both. So
yeah, and she seems almost aware of it. You know, on Kinky, she's actually like, isn't she having like a dialogue with her old self? It's even featuring Kesha with the $sign in it. So I'm like, you know, it's good to see that she's still like tongue in cheek about it. And even if maybe it all didn't land, she's at least being like thoughtful about where this is going, and it seems intentional, which is good. It's not like she's just like, let me just go back to this and see if I can get another hit. Yeah. So I think it's worth checking out, especially if you've ever enjoyed Kesha, because I find her career arc, especially with everything she's been through, to be very fascinating. Why don't we move on to talk about another musical artist, someone a little more popular than her, who dropped a documentary on Netflix, Miss Taylor Swift.
Just a little bit.
I'm glad you picked that picture too, because that dress was just like so absurd and out there, but I really thought it was great. I thought she wore it well in the documentary Miss Americana, which just dropped this past Friday, detailing basically Swift's life from when Reputation is snubbed, or I don't know, rightfully snubbed by the Grammys.
Not honored.
Not honored at the Grammys last year, to her dropping Lover. Pretty much up to that day is when they chronicle, and her kind of like writing process. They also delve back into Swift's upbringing, kind of dive a little bit into her psychological makeup and how her early performing kind of led to her craving this constant validation and this like need to never be controversial in order to avoid criticism. I thought this documentary was really good in some aspects and really left me with a lot of questions, which I don't really want to leave a documentary with. How are you feeling after watching Miss Americana?
Yeah, it's funny too, like going into this, Miss Americana was just at Sundance last week. Taylor was there promoting it, the director, and like in a sense it kind of represents how Sundance changed, where we have stars and top tier film producing companies like Netflix at Sundance, which used to be the home of indie film looking for a home. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of nice poster child for how Sundance has evolved over the years. Well, whenever a documentary is made involving with the creative involvement of its subject, you have to be a little cautious of what's being told to you. I think that goes without saying. And it's inherently going to be a hagiography at times. I think that, and you know, from like a filmmaking perspective, I think it looks fine. I like the way they interspersed like paparazzi footage and people's phone video and stuff. It was cool to see like some like real world stuff, like even those graphics when they're like showing tweets and stuff, and it was cool to see I guess a change like that. But and even like the more lo-fi video of like Taylor just like recording and running through songs in the studio and stuff. I think it looks pretty cool. It's cool how it moves around visually like that. But yeah, from the message, like I feel like if you're already a Taylor fan, you know, if you're a Swiftie if you've been with her for a while, or even if you just got back on board for Lover, you probably like this and are happy with this because Taylor giving you more, and it's definitely Taylor opening up more than she ever has. That's certainly true. I think the issue, I think at least for me or someone who's approaching it with more critical lens, is that uh, Taylor's only opening up as much as she is opening up because she's still being very calculated about, because that's how she approaches everything. She's very calculating, and and whenever she talks about any kind of hardship or things that brought her down throughout her career the past few years in Miss Americana, she never, or in the documentary and Taylor talking, they never attempt to explore why really any of that happened. It's just more about how Taylor felt about it.
Yeah.
So like any kind of culpability that might have been necessary for certain moments is just totally absent because it's coming from Taylor's point of view. So I feel like you just kind of have to know that going in.
Yeah, I think that sums up an issue I have with the movie very well, which is I really like the part where they show Kanye West when he steals her moment at the VMAs. I think they do a good job of kind of like framing that, and like especially when they show the footage of her doing the interview afterwards, and they were like, "Were you a fan of Kanye?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, he's Kanye West," and like you can just see like how defeated she is in that moment.
Yeah.
I think they do a really good job of like making you understand that, and also showing like her childhood and like how basically like when you perform from the time you're little, and you're basically just told like you're good when people clap and you're not good when people don't like it, like that's gonna fuck with your psyche. Where I was left with a lot of questions, like there was no Scooter Braun in this. They showed her advocating a lot for gay rights without really exploring her belief system in any sort of way other than she thinks gays should have rights. People who are gay should have rights. I don't think they really addressed any of the critique of her appropriating gay culture in this. I was kind of left feeling like if what you're trying to do is like come out of this and basically, I don't know if they're trying to make Taylor bulletproof, but really like make you have sympathy for her, I didn't really walk away with that much. Especially because, like you said, some of the things that they said have grounded Taylor and helped her move on to make a much better record is she's developed a new relationship. We see one shot of this man walking with her in a distance, and then it's just never mentioned again. We never see that person.
Of all people, man.
Right? It's like, it's like someone who's a lot more grounded. I was like, okay, really? Like he's also a celebrity.
Another famous person.
Yeah. I was like, okay. You see her talking about her, like how she feels like she has to step into this Democratic election, and was like Nashville. And I'm like, okay, but like, please explain more. Like, why do you believe these things? Like, you've been this person who's been in the public zeitgeist for the last 15 years, half your life, and you've never had any political leanings, and all of a sudden you do. Like, please just explain it further.
And it also doesn't say what's left unsaid is that Taylor chose to finally reveal a political stance because it was in her best interest to finally do that, Yeah. So whether it was genuine or not, we have no idea. But you can still be skeptical of how it's presented. So it's challenging, It was interesting seeing, start with Reputation and then have Taylor be like, I got to make a better album, which, that is exactly what you needed to do. It's interesting to see you understand that in the moment, even as you're doing an arena tour of the album.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a follow up to this, just because Lover did not get an Album of the Year nomination at the Grammys. That just happened.
Right.
And Taylor thusly did not attend the Grammys as a result because it wasn't nominated up to her standard. That was certainly a album that was definitely in the mix and worthy of that kind of recognition. So I'd love to know how she feels now. The story's not over.
I know she received a nomination for songwriting, and I think she was the only songwriting nomination where she was like the solo writer on it. So I assume she's probably at least pleased with that. But yeah, I would like to see like if if she's like, okay, now I've made the record I want to make, or if it's still about like getting recognized and winning awards, or if she could just be satisfied with feeling like she did something that's right for her.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Taylor Swift's a very complicated public figure, and I don't really know how to uncomplicate her unless she wants to be more transparent, and that's doesn't seem like something she really wants to do.
Well, and that's the thing. I think some of the best parts of the doc is when she's just talking about more about how she felt about or changed how she thought about things, right? Like her public image, like from a physical perspective, and being very body conscious, and having an eating disorder in a certain sense. That's great to hear, and yeah, that's not like I guess, an uncommon story to be told from famous people. I think that was still important for her to share that with her fans. I think that'll definitely hit home with a lot of people, especially a lot of women. So that was awesome. And like I don't like, was that widely known sentiment from hers? I'm not sure if that's like a new reveal as someone who doesn't follow everything that happens with Taylor, but that was really great.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like her family and stuff, and like her close confidants, and even like her like management and stuff, they're like in the periphery of the doc, but like there's not a whole lot extra. Like I just wish we didn't dig deep enough. That's the problem.
Yeah, we must go deeper,
and that's because it's coming from Taylor.
Yeah,
went as deep as she wanted to go.
I do have to say, really enjoyed pretty much all the scenes of her in the studio. Even when she's making a song like Me, which I don't think is like a great song, but like seeing her and Brandon Urie like kind of riff on things and like piece it together, and like when her and Jack Antonoff, I forgot which song it was they were working out, but they like finally figure some lyric out, and you can see them both like getting to it. I was like, oh, yeah, this is really cool. Like, yeah, this is when you can like really appreciate the genius of these two. So,
yeah, like when she's like, when they're doing Me, and she's like, I think we got the first single, and I was like, fuck, yeah, that was the problem. It was the first single.
Right, exactly.
They probably just made it first, I guess. That's probably what happened. I don't know.
I also love the back and forth with her and Brandon Urie, where she's like, how about you say it like me? And he's like, okay, like me. And he's like, no, like me. And like it's like the subtlest little difference, and he just can't figure it out. I was dying at that. But it's worth watching. I mean, it's as I said, complicated figure, never going to be uncomplicated, but I think it, as someone that's going to be popular for a very long time.
He's what, 30 now?
Yeah, so we have another like 30 to 40 years of her probably. Right. I think it's worth the watch. Why don't we move on to something else I think is worth the watch though, and wrapped up series finale, The Good Place. Wrapped up this past Thursday. After 4 seasons, I thought it was 5 because they always split it up in the middle.
Yep. Broadcast television.
Yeah. Another Michael Schur, hit, just like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, probably the lesser of his hits, but Parks and Rec.
Wrote for The Office originally.
Wrote for The Office. And it's very much in that style. You can kind of tell when it's a Michael Schur product. It has a very like distinct feel to it. And I've mentioned The Good Place in the past as a show I've really enjoyed. It's been on some of my end of year lists. I know you haven't really gotten a chance to get around to it, and I don't know if this is really like a show that's up your alley or your interests, but it's a show that I think mixes a really cool concept, like when you die, like what the afterlife is like, and really giving like a spin on it that you wouldn't expect. It's very much just like it looks like everyday life, and that's kind of the twist. Spoiler in season 1 that they're not actually in the good place,
right?
But it adds a philosophical perspective to it, kind of like what makes us human, what's the point of being on Earth, and making relationships and trying to be a good person. Like, why do we do it? Well, also with just these very like sweet characters that when put together, the 6 of them are just absolutely phenomenal. And they have such good chemistry together. And for some of them, this was their first really big role. I mean, you obviously had Ted Danson and Kristen Bell, who were very famous going into this, but then you have someone like Jamila Jamil, who this was literally her first acting job, and
huge
just
breakout, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely kills it. I'm trying. Chidi's name is Chad O'Shea Jackson, I believe. Let me just double check that because I don't want
Chat O'Shea Jackson Jr.,
to.
Ice Cube's son. Is he
No,
on the
not
show too?
no. It's William Jackson Harper. Sorry, who was also in he's in Midsommar. He's starting to really break out as an
Oh,
actor. You obviously have DRC Gordon, who's been
right.
everywhere. She's just blowing up and going to be an absolute star. And then like Manny Jacinto, who's hilarious on this and gets to really be like the comedic levity for most episodes. And they just meshed together so well. And it wrapped up, I think, in a really beautiful way. It was an episode that definitely had my emotions going up and down for some really beautiful moments, some really tear-jerking moments, and overall just wraps up so thoughtfully. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone that hasn't had a chance to watch. I really recommend it. It's only 4 seasons, probably about 80, 20-minute episodes, and a good comfort watch that'll make you think more than you probably expect to going into something like this.
Right.
But boy, just an absolute pleasure. And they had a Seth Meyers leading a finale breakdown show after the fact with all the main cast, and hearing them talk about it, you can just see how this working on this has really meant a lot to all of them. Even someone like Ted Danson, who's obviously legendary in the acting sphere for the past going on 5 decades now. To see him really be moved by what they made and the meaning that they feel like they got across in this is just it's really exciting and really sad to see it go. I know I'm gonna miss it. It was hard to like have this be the end because I just felt like I was really losing something. So do you ever plan on checking this out?
I mean, probably not. I usually don't watch a lot of like the traditional studio comedies. Like, Cher's also done Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a show that like I don't hear any bad things about these shows, but I always gravitate towards dramas, and I always never am lacking things to watch. So I just never make the time. Usually, but I think Mike Schur overall is just a really interesting guy to me, and certainly continue to keep following what he does. I mean, he inked that big, overall deal with NBC Universal last year. Like over $100 million. He's like, their biggest prize, arguably, and he's like been with NBC for like over 20 years at this point. But he's going to be making lots of content for Peacock. He's could be one of the big drivers of that. So I'm really interested to see what else he keeps doing, even as like something like Brooklyn Nine-Nine keeps going. So definitely honestly one of the most powerful and I think just kind of intriguing creators on TV, and it's just cool to keep up with that.
Yeah, there's something to be said about making these like 30-minute comfort shows, and they don't get the prestige that something like an HBO hour drama gets, but man, I feel like they're almost more valuable in a sense with everything that's like going on politically in the world. I feel like it's like one of those times during the week where I'm like, okay, I get to just like enjoy this half hour rather than maybe having to carry some of that weight. So definitely sad to see it go. Highly recommend people check it out. But Dave, I think it's time to give our probably very not diverse Oscar picks
man
for this.
It's boring. It's a lot of stuff feels locked, man. I think I have like nine categories. I'm like dead convinced on what's going to happen, which is doesn't make for a fun broadcast or show,
Yeah, and without a host, I mean, I think they did a good job without a host last year, but it's going to be interesting to see if maybe the lack of a host stands out more when maybe there's not as much diversity in the winners, or maybe like surprise winners. We'll see. I mean, last year we had Olivia Colman win, which was totally unexpected, and everybody had been pegging who was it last year?
Glenn Close,
yes, to take it away, and out of nowhere, and then we get a delightful speech. I don't foresee that happening. I mean, we're gonna get a delightful speech from Brad Pitt, no doubt, which
Joaquin
we'll get
as well.
to. Yeah, he seems to have some very thoughtful some takes. He had an interesting speech at the BAFTAs last night. Um, but I guess why don't we just like start away from the back of the ballot forward? And we can kind of just shout out what we think is going to win. Maybe also what we hope will win if there is like a upset, what we'd want it to be. Maybe
Right,
make it a
right.
little more interesting. Where do you want to start? Visual effects?
Sure.
Sure.
This
All
one, this
right.
one, I think is much more open than some of the bigger awards that feel locked. This one's definitely open.
Yeah, so you have Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. What are you leaning towards? What do you think will
Right.
take it home?
Well, for all of these awards, I looked back at all like the major awards and like guild awards and things that have happened to date. Everything's happened at this point beyond the Indie Spirit Awards, and voting ends Tuesday, so everything's basically locked in.
Mm-hmm.
But for visual effects, it's funny. So the Visual Effects Society, the effects people, they awarded Lion King, but the BAFTA for visual effects went to 1917, and the Critics' Choice Award went to Endgame. And that's, I think, like the only race I found, or I think there's a few other ones, but like where it's that spread around.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to look for precedent and Visual Effects Society. It's been around since '02. The winner of that award has won 10 of the last 17 times, but different the past 2 years. So I don't think Lion King is certainly safe. And I think I'm just going to go with 1917 because I feel like it's going to do well in a bunch of technicals, and I feel like they'll just kind of will throw this one in. But I'm not confident in that one at all.
Yeah, if you had asked me a couple of months ago, I probably would have said The Irishman will be a lock for this,
Yeah.
with the de aging effects. Um, I think we'll get Lion King with this, although everyone in this category really has I think a good case to be made. Even Endgame, I think, how they stitched that whole movie together, and the scale of it is just so
Right.
impressive. I'm gonna
Thanos,
go
a
Lion King.
very impressive effect for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll go Lion King with that.
Yeah,
I think if
that'd be my second choice. I think it's between Lion King and 1917, personally. So
it worries me because if 1917 gets all of these, I think it's
yeah,
just like it's the night is over,
the inevitability of it all, right?
right. um, what do you want to go to next? Film editing.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, film editing is an important award because it's usually a bellwether for Best Picture winners.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you look at this, so 1917 notably is not nominated for Best Film Editing, and Birdman won Best Picture in 2015 without a Best Film Editing nom. But that was the first time that had happened since Ordinary People in 1980. So it certainly is uncommon for something that's not even recognized for editing to win. And then you look at what's happened. Again, no 1917 to pick. The BAFTA went to Ford versus Ferrari,
Hell yeah.
but then the ACE Awards, the American Cinema Editors Award, the editing folks, they separated by drama and comedy. Comedy went to JoJo, and then drama went to Parasite. So I think this is going to be Parasite.
That'd be nice,
That's
right?
what I'm going to go with.
Uh, you know, yeah, I'll go with you on Parasite. I had Ford versus Ferrari underlined as well as Parasite on this one. I hope it's Parasite. I worry that this could be Joker, and then it's going to be like 1917 and Joker, kind of just like picking up
Interesting.
off awards as they move forward. But I'm gonna go with you on Parasite for that one. I think that one's the most deserving. I'd like to see it get some more awards than just the best foreign language or international feature film, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, next one, production design. This category actually is pretty tough to pick for me. We have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, 1917, Parasite, and JoJo. I mean, each one of those is spectacular in their own way. I think it's gonna be 1917. If I had to guess, it's a very impressive set design. I mean, obviously, you really feel like you're in the trenches with them, and no matter what part of the movie you're in, it's impressive. I would hope if there is an upset here, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's between those two, but I would also lean 1917, which did win the BAFTA for this, even though I think the unfortunate aspect is that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, apart from Brad Pitt, really kind of fell off as a contender. So a lot of these smaller awards that it obviously is very deserving of, that I think we had pegged for Hollywood a few months ago, definitely don't seem so certain now. And production design is one of those. I mean, like the creation of LA throughout Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's incredible.
Yep.
And I mean, just think of like the Brad Pitt racing down Sunset in the car, like scene like that, where you just whip through the blocks. It's amazing. But 1917 also, I think, wows lots and lots of people that vote and that make movies, because they see just the scale of the sets for that movie. So yeah, I think 1917 gets it.
Man, this is really bumming me out, especially because the next one I have on my list is cinematography, and you have 1917, The Lighthouse, The Irishman, Joker, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but it's 1917, Roger Deakins. Like this, I don't even know why they're going to broadcast this, because we all know.
Yeah, I mean, they'll broadcast this because everyone likes Roger Deakins, so they're happy to see him win this for the second time. This also won the BAFTA already, and the cinematography Guild Award. So, I mean, awesome that Lighthouse is there at all. Love that.
Shout it out.
Deserving choice. But yeah, this is one of the locks. That's easy. I mean, the cinematography is the most impressive thing about 1917. So it obviously is the one that should win.
Yeah, and you already know that the highlight reel for that is the run across the charge. Like you already could see it. You like the cinematography, don't you, Lobster? That was a terrible attempt. Costume design, Irishman, Little Women, JoJo, Joker, Once Upon a Time. Little Women, I think, for this one.
Yeah, Little Women won the BAFTA, and I think it's kind of getting that. It's a period film. It's funny, the Critics' Choice Award went to Dolomite Is My Name, Ruth Carter, which is not nominated for the Oscars. But yeah, Little Women, another movie that, like Hollywood, is not going to get a whole ton of recognition. So I think awarding something that it's definitely a leader in for this year, like costume design, would be great to see. And I feel like that's the way it's leaning.
Yeah, if there's a dark horse for me, I'd hope it'd be Once Upon a Time, but I think it actually might be JoJo for this.
Yeah, that's the thing. The rising JoJo energy, you'd feel like, I think JoJo is a dark horse for a bunch of things right now.
Makeup and hairstyling. Bombshell, Joker, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Judy in 1917. I think this could be Bombshell for this one. It won the BAFTA, right?
It did. Yeah, BAFTA and the Critics' Choice. This is another lock I have. I mean, everyone's pegging it for Bombshell, and I think that one's pretty easy. When you have multiple transformation performances like you do with Kidman and Charlize, like as you do in Bombshell, I think it's a pretty easy win.
Yeah, and deserving for sure. Sound mixing, Ad Astra, Ford versus Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time. What are you leaning with in this category? I didn't really make a pick here.
I'm leaning 1917, which won the BAFTA, but Ford versus Ferrari, I think, is also right there in the mix.
It's just 1917 is going to be up there so many times, I feel like, especially as we move to sound editing, and we have Ford versus Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time, and Star Wars. It's going to be 1917. Just stay up there for those two. Announce them at the same time.
Interestingly, the BAFTA is combined just best sound. I know that's something that's been talked about for the Oscars in the past. I would not be opposed to that. I know that's one of those blog articles that gets rewritten every year. What is the difference between sound mixing and sound editing? Because people just don't keep it straight. So why make it so complicated? But I feel like 1917 is going to win both of these, but I think Ford versus Ferrari is the second for both as well. But shout out to Astra. That's a great nomination. Happy to see that.
They should show the voting. Show us how close it is. I want to know.
Imagine.
Original song. So we have I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4. I'm Standing With You. Breakthrough, Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man and Stand Up Harriet. This feels like a lock. I'm going to go
Yep.
I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man.
Yep. I also wrote this as a lock. It won the Globe already. It won the Critics' Choice. It's Elton John.
Yep.
And also Taron.
Yep.
Taron did not get through in Best Actor in the end, but everyone has loved him all award season as he is glad-handed like no one has glad-handed before. No shame in that.
He was
so
running.
Yeah, I think it's going to win. This will be performed at the broadcast. This is a lock.
Yep. Original score, we have 1917, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, and Star Wars. I mean, this is probably going to be Joker, but I got to say, I do not recall the Joker score very much at all. Do you?
Yeah, so it's going to be Joker, won the BAFTA, won the Globe, won the Critics. But yeah, I forget her name. Hinder, who's going to win for it. It's funny because you look at this race and you have Alexander's Plot for Little
John
Women,
Williams.
and you have the Newman for Marriage Story, and John Williams, of course, for his 100th nomination. And
Yep.
like it's a big who's who, but I feel like Joker just kind of like took this one by the horns like a few months ago, and it just kept winning. So yeah, but yeah, like there's that one. I'm trying to think. Like there's a few moments. I get the bathroom scene.
Yeah,
like that has memorable music, but it's a little understated for a score, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know.
I would have personally picked Little Women.
Me too. I was going to say Little Women is my favorite in this category because I have such distinct memories of the sound of like watching Joe like run through the woods back to her home or like traveling from one place to another. It just really stands out. All right. International feature film. We don't need to spend much time on this. It's Parasite.
Yep.
Watch
Good field.
Yeah, watch Les Mis, watch Honeyland, watch Corpus Christi and Pain and Glory. Yeah. Moving on, documentary feature. Well, we're not going to talk about the shorts. I don't know if we even watched. I didn't watch.
I haven't seen any of them. Yeah. I just quickly looked. Anime short film. The favorite is Hair Love. Heavy favorite. Live action short film. The favorite is Brotherhood. And documentary short subject. The favorite is Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone. But a lot of times those prognosticating for those kind of awards are often wrong, so I wouldn't take any of that to the bank.
Yeah, don't bet on this. Documentary feature, we have American Factory, The Cave, The Edge of Democracy, For Sama, Honeyland. Have you watched any of these?
I have not. I know American Factory's on the flicks. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah. This is interesting because the Producers Guild Award for documentary feature went to Apollo 11, which is not nominated. That was the highest grossing doc of last year. It was not as big a box office for docs as it was the year before when we had a RBG and Won't You Be My Neighbor and Four Identical Strangers, some true big documentary hits, and Free Solo, of course.
Yep.
But this year,
you didn't even mention Minding the Gap. I mean, come on.
Well, that didn't make a lot of money. Apart from Apollo 11, you also don't have One Child Nation, the China doc, which was well liked, and the AOC one, Knock Down the House, is in here. So it's kind of an interesting field. The BAFTA went to For Sama, but the DGA went to American Factory, and that's kind of been pegged as the favorite for a while. But I would not count out Honeyland, which that's the Macedonian beekeeping doc, which you can watch on, I believe, Hulu right now. But yeah, I think it's going to be American Factory.
I agree. Animated feature. This is an interesting one, right?
Very interesting.
You have How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. If you had gone into this 3 months ago, you're basically like, it's Toy Story 4. Why are we even talking about this? But Klaus seems to be winning everywhere. So what the fuck?
Also, I mean, going a few months ago, you would have assumed Frozen 2 was going to get picked. It's not even here, which is wild, which I support because Frozen 2 is bad. Anyway, yeah, I mean, well, the whole anarchy of animated feature really kicked off when Missing Link won the Golden Globe, which was not a celebrated animated movie. It's truly just, a kid's animated movie. Cool. Like nothing more to say. It's from Laika and it's not their best work, definitely. And then Klaus, which is was a Netflix original that just kind of dropped, and people were like, oh yeah, that was a little different. That was cool, I guess. Christmas movies. If you can get a new one and add it to the rotation for everyone, that's a success. Cool, good for you guys. Sure. And then it wins the BAFTA, and it wins the Annie Award, which is like the animation awards. But I'm still going with Toy Story 4 because Toy Story 4 won the PGA, and then it won the American Cinematography Editors Animated Award as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm going with Toy Story 4, but it's truly wide open between, I think, Toy Story 4 and Klaus. I Lost My Body has a lot of like critics awards. That's the French film also on Netflix, but I don't think that could pull through.
I hope it's Toy Story 4. I think it's deserving. It's just an amazing animated film. But I think it will actually be Klaus, and I think I'm going to be very disappointed by that.
It'll be notable if Lion King doesn't win Best Visual Effects and Toy Story 4 doesn't win Animated Feature Film. Those are the only two awards that Disney is really competing for.
What will they do? What will they do?
I mean, Searchlight movies notwithstanding, I guess, but just kind of interesting to see that Disney with two huge animated hits this year and walks them empty-handed.
They got Avengers Endgame in there once or twice, right? So
sure, yeah. I'm just talking about actually winning anything,
right? Yeah, because that's not going to win. So now we'll do the screenplays and we'll do the acting. Adapted screenplay. We have The Irishman, Joker, JoJo, Little Women, The Two Popes. Boy, is this going to be Joker? Is this going to be Joker?
No, I don't think so at all.
I think it's going to be Little Women?
It's Little Women or JoJo, but JoJo just won the WGA, the Writers Guild. And everyone's kind of pegging that as pulling ahead. Funny enough, a few months ago, I would have assumed The Irishman wins this. Steve Zalian, really, really strong script. I kind of had pegged this as The Irishman for a while. But, man, I really wish Little Women would win, but it feels like it's going to be JoJo. Little Women just has a much more impressive script to me. It's an adaptation that like transcends its source material and actually does new things as an adaptation. JoJo, I mean, I don't know if the JoJo script is like, that was kind of my problem with JoJo, because I like it but didn't love it because I didn't think it committed to any being funny or being dramatic enough, in my opinion. But it feels like this is going to be JoJo after the Writers Guild win.
I'd be happy with anything but the Joker from this category, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, if I had to make a pick, I'm going to say Little Women. I think Little Women gets the recognition it deserves. I think JoJo will go home empty-handed tonight, honestly.
Ooh.
So, the original screenplay, Knives Out, 1917, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Boy, there are like 4 movies here I wish could win. Which one do you want to win, Dave? Let's start there. What do you want to win?
I want Parasite to win because of what it means for the rest of the night.
Right.
What's similar to The Irishman in Adapted? A few months ago, I thought this was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in a Walk.
Mm-hmm.
QT winning. He's won screenplay before. But as we said before, with that not happening as much, you can look at what's happened so far. I think the interesting wrinkle with this was that Parasite won the Writers Guild for original screenplay. Caveat, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was not eligible because QT is not a Writers Guild member. Dumb rule, but that's the way it works. So they didn't really go head-to-head. Hollywood did win the Globe, though, which doesn't have a distinction between original or adapted screenplay on top of that. If 1917 somehow won this, then yeah, that shit's a wrap. I don't really think that's going to happen, though.
I don't think so.
And in terms of the screenplay, certainly one of the weaker aspects in terms of the awards that 1917 is up for. So I don't think anyone will be feel too bad about not winning that one anyway. But with the WGA win, Parasite, I still kind of feel like it's going to be Hollywood, though, given the kind of lack of other wins for Once Upon a Time.
Though,
it's tough. I'm not really confident in either one. It's definitely up between those two.
If Parasite doesn't win this one, it's looking like it's only probably going to go home with one. So if we're hoping for any sort of potential upset in Best Picture, it feels like Parasite's got to win this category. But I agree.
Parasite needs this and editing.
Yep.
This is his path.
And I actually agree. I had picked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Parasite as my second one. But man, I really wish Knives Out and Marriage Story could both win. I think both those have great screenplays to them. So
Yeah, I mean, Marriage Story is another movie that kind of just didn't fade. It's been there the whole time. It's been recognized the whole way, but apart from Laura Dern, hasn't really won much of anything. And you saw that as Noah Baumbach kind of fell off the directing, field.
yeah, and you just
the
mentioned
way it works sometimes.
You just mentioned Laura Dern, so why don't we just jump to actress in a supporting role? Because this seems like a lock for her. Her role in Marriage Story is recognized. Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Scarlett Johansson for JoJo, Florence Pugh for Little Women. Shout out to Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
And Margot Robbie in Bombshell. Laura Dern.
Yep.
Laura Dern.
All these, I'll just say it now, just say it once. All these acting awards are a lock because literally all four of these people have won the BAFTA, the Globe, the SAG, and the Critics' Choice Award. There's been no variety for the major things. So why would you expect it now?
Right. Actor in a supporting role. Brad Pitt's going to take that home for Once Upon a Time. Yep. He's up against Pacino and Pesci for Irishman, Hopkins for The Two Popes, and Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. That's a fucking stacked category.
Yeah,
the fact it's such a lock is just like it's just ridiculous to me. Actress in a leading role. Yeah. It's going to be Renee Zellweger. Renee Zellweger for Judy, up against Charlize Theron for Bombshell, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, and Cynthia Erivo for Harriet. And then Best Actor, it's going to be Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, up against DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. So now that we got the acting categories out of the way, because
I actually wanted to ask you if there was one of those to be upset, Olivia Colman beating Glenn Close last year, what would it be? What would you expect? Because again, I don't think it's going to happen. I think these all four are basically in the bank, given the precedent so far. But if you had to pick one, what would you pick?
If I had to pick one, I think the one that could potentially be upset is actress in a supporting role. I think I could see Johansson getting the love there. Like people saying, I'm not going to pick her for Best Actress. I'm going to give that to Renee, but I wanted to give some love to Scarlett. What about you?
I was thinking the other way. I was thinking actress for Renee because Judy is the least celebrated movie here. I mean, Harriet even has an original song now, but Judy literally just has recognition for Renee. Renee also has already won before. And that was one of the first movies that people saw and started talking about in the awards season. That's probably why it got this far. But the JoJo energy we've talked about kind of rising, picking up awards throughout this season. ScarJo's never won before. Now she's a double nominee. Don't think it's going to happen, but I think ScarJo Marriage Story probably would be the strongest chance for anything to break over. Like, it's kind of funny because we thought Adam Driver was a favorite coming in. We thought, all these races were really so stacked, but it's gonna. I guess the positive of it is that because they've been winning so much, they've been thinking about this for so long. They're gonna have great speeches. Like Joaquin and Brad, I think, are really gonna crush it.
Yeah.
I mean, Renee's speeches have been pretty weak all year, too. Maybe that impacted some voting. I don't know.
I don't see it. Man, I can't wait for Brad to just roast QT for his foot fetish again, though. I need more of it.
I mean, he wasn't even at the BAFTAs, but he had Margot read his speech, and he, made a joke about being single, like the United Kingdom. Like, guy's killing it.
He's the best. Two more categories. Directing. We have Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, Todd Phillips for Joker, Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Between two, Mendes and Bong Joon-ho.
Yep.
Who do you got?
And another award that a few months ago we were like, Quentin Tarantino, he's going to get his first Best Director.
He kind of should.
Yeah.
Not going to.
He would be my pick, I would say. But 1917, Mendes, he won the BAFTA, the DGA, the Critics, and the Globe. We tied the critics with Bong. So Bong never actually beat Mendes head to head at any time during the season in the major awards. So it's going to be Mendes. But man, if Bong somehow won, that would be insane, because you know what that would mean. But yeah, I think regardless of the way Best Picture goes, I think Mendes is going to win this.
Yeah, Mendes is the one I chose. Just wanting to be right, but the one, if there's a category that I think we could experience a huge upset, this seems primed, because I really think, I don't know, this kind of reminds me when La La Land and Moonlight went up against each other, and didn't Barry Jenkins win director that year?
No, Chazelle got director and then lost Best Picture. Yeah.
So I feel like we could see something like that, where it's like either Bong wins it and then Parasite loses to 1917, or vice versa, where Mendes wins it. Because I just have a feeling it's not going to go all tape. It can't. You can't just. I'm not going to stay up for 3.5 hours watching this for it to be everything I already predicted.
Right. Well, and that leads into Best Picture, and just kind of looking at the precedent. I mentioned some of them before, but Parasite won the SAG win, right? That was the big win for Parasite as a movie, whereas 1917 won the Globe and the PGA. Parasite does not have any acting nominations, and the last time there was a SAG win without an acting nominations that then won Best Picture, you have to go all the way back to Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, in 2003. So not a lot of precedent for that. I mentioned 1917 with film editing. Not common. 1917 also does not have acting nominations. So for a film to win Best Picture without an editing nom or acting nominations, you have to go all the way back to Grand Hotel in 1932, a movie I haven't seen. So there's no precedent for that, right? Mm-hmm. Now, on top of that, we also have 1917 was not nominated by the SAG, let alone won, and also was not nominated by ACE. So in terms of like those top 5 guilds, no film has ever won Best Picture while missing out on 2 nominations from those top 5 guilds, since all 5 guilds were active. So there really is not any kind of precedent at all for 1917 winning. Also, and Parasite also, of course, has a lot going up against it too. Of course, a foreign language film has never won Best Picture. Roma got real close last year. Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is going to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with a real upset.
Well, the preferential ballot always has a say in the matter, so you can't write it off. Man, dude, it's Who
do you got? Who do you got?
This could be a Moonlight. This could be a Spotlight. That's your path for Parasite. It's something like that happening. Yeah, I kind of started feeling good about Parasite, which I know is going to be my undoing. And it's what I want to see so bad that I'm just using my own biases to pontificate. But it's 1917 or Parasite. I don't think Once Upon a Time can crack through, although it's probably third place unless JoJo really has rocketed up as much as it just might have. I don't know. Mm-hmm. With a preferential ballot on its side and the fact that Parasite won the SAG and actors make up the biggest amount of the voting body in the Academy, I'm going to go with Parasite, and I'll be wrong in a week.
You know what? I like it. I'm actually going to say Once Upon a Time, only because I can't stomach 1917 winning, and it would be fun. But man, I think this is going to be a very boring award show.
And bears repeating that 1917 winning is not a Green Book win, or what we almost got a Bohemian Rhapsody win. It's not that. 1917 is a really good movie. So it's a really good war movie. The problem is that it's not new or transcendent, and apparently it doesn't stand at the multiple viewings as much as it should.
Right.
And it's not going to win the screenplay. Mm-hmm. And
it's gimmicky, which is, I think, why it's hard to swallow, for me at least, especially when it goes up against these 2 films, which I don't know. I didn't see 1917 at the top of many people's best films list above Parasite and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No, Did that happen at all? Like,
it's so disappointing. It's
like 1917's in my top 20, but 4 of these other ones are in my top 10, including 2 of them are in my top 2. So there's just tiers to this. And it's just annoying that like a second tier good movie is going to actually win it over like some truly amazing shit.
Yeah.
Just frustrating. Actually, shit, my top 4 is in this. Parasite, Hollywood, Marriage Story, and Irishman. And then I also have Little Women in my top 10. I would take all of those over 1917.
Yep. But probably not going to go that way. So
No.
we'll be talking about it unless something really big happens. I don't think we're going to be talking right after because it's all going to be tape probably. But if something big does happen, maybe we'll be coming live to you Sunday evening. Anything else we should be priming for next week? We got Briar Patch next week.
Yep. Well, Briar Patch comes out on Thursday.
Birds of Prey,
DC. Some good early impressions. I like to hear that.
Yeah, and that Colin Powell cameo seems to be like coming out of nowhere.
That guy crushes it with those tweets. I love
Kills it.
I'm looking forward to The Assistant rolling out. That's the Julia Garner movie about Me Too. It's looking forward to that. I think it's going to start being by more people. That's the big stuff. BoJack Horseman just debuted the last of it, so you'll be touching on that at some point. But yeah, I mean, all eyes on the Oscars right now. Let's hope there's some anarchy, at least a little bit.
Let's hope. Until next week, we'll catch you later.